Hi there, I'm Brianna. My brother made a toast to being an only child while I sat right there, and no one blinked. Not my mom, not my dad. That night, I realized this wasn't just some awkward family moment. It was intentional. The kind of silence that steals your name from family trusts, that erases you from birthday invites, hospital calls, even insurance papers. They didn't just forget me, they planned around me, so I stood up. And I said something I can never take back. I arrived 3 minutes early and still felt late. The restaurant was one of those places where you couldn't tell if you were supposed to eat the food or frame it. Everything was muted beige and polished brass, and the waitstaff spoke like they were trying not to wake a sleeping baby. I was seated at the far end of a long candlelit table, between a ficus and my cousin's new boyfriend, who called me Brianna twice before giving up. Across the room, my brother Lowell stood, already charming the room like a senator during re-election season. His laugh, loud, practiced, cut through the hum of silverware. My mother, Delilah, was glued to his side, nodding like a proud campaign manager. My father, Wendell, kept beaming at him the way dads in commercials look at their sons after mowing the lawn. No one asked me how I was. No one noticed I was there. I didn't show it, of course. I smiled when someone glanced my way, nodded politely when my cousin talked about her new kitchen remodel. I played the part. That's what I always did. Until Lowell picked up his champagne glass and tapped it lightly with his ring. "First off," he began, all faux humility, "thank you all for being here to celebrate the two people who shaped the man you see before you. The most incredible parents anyone could ask for." There was a polite laugh, a few raised glasses. I waited. "And second," he continued, turning toward them, "thank you for raising the best only child in the world." It landed like a slap. There was a half-second where I expected someone, anyone, to interrupt, to say, "Wait, what about Brianna?" But instead, my mother raised her glass with a tight-lipped smile. My father chuckled softly, like it was an inside joke. That was the moment something in me flipped. Not cracked, not broke, just shifted. I didn't flinch. I didn't clear my throat. I sat there, hands resting in my lap, back straight. My purse was on the floor beside me, and inside it, an envelope I'd spent months preparing. A gesture. A gift. A sign that maybe I was ready to let go of old wounds and start over. But now, I wasn't sure who deserved it anymore. Lowell went on talking, making some joke about his baby photos and how they were always the favorites. People laughed. My parents beamed. I didn't hear the rest. My ears had gone quiet. Not with rage, not yet, but with something colder. Something final. I thought back to the last time they acknowledged me publicly. I couldn't remember when that even was. Maybe my high school graduation, when they forgot to bring flowers, but remembered to bring a camera, for Lowell. Tonight wasn't about forgetting, it was about erasure. And they all played along. I looked down at the envelope. The corners were soft now, worn from weeks of second-guessing. I'd thought it might be the olive branch they didn't expect but needed. That maybe, just maybe, this dinner would be the turning point. Instead, it became the proof. And in that pause, I realized silence was my mother tongue. But tonight, I was done speaking it. I didn't stand up yet, but the weight of that envelope burned through my fingertips. I shifted in my seat, watching the smiles stretch around the table like nothing had just happened. Someone asked Lowell what law school taught him about being so damn smooth, and he launched into another rehearsed story. My mother giggled. My father gave him that nod, proud, automatic, detached. I clapped too, quietly, because that's what was expected. The lie wasn't just in what Lowell said, it was in the silence that followed. That was the loudest part. No one corrected him. Not even a glance my way. That's when it clicked. This wasn't an accident. It was confirmation. A year ago, almost to the day, I gave my father a handmade photo album for his birthday. I'd spent weeks scanning old family photos, restoring them, adding captions, memories he said he cherished. When he opened it, he blinked like it was a tax form. "Oh, that's nice," he muttered, then passed it to my mother, who flipped through the first few pages before asking, "Did Lowell help you make this?" I remember that moment like a snapshot burned into my brain. I said no. I made it myself. She nodded. put the album down next to the breadbasket, and asked if someone could pass the butter. I never saw it again. Then there was the card. Same year. I'd written a full page. Gratitude, childhood memories, hopes. It wasn't even read aloud. Lowell handed his card across the table with a one-liner about our dad being the only man who could survive living with Mom for 40 years. Everyone laughed. Someone wiped a tear. Mine stayed in the pile, unopened, underneath a napkin. I took it back when I left. That night, I sat in my car outside their house for 20 minutes, engine running, radio off, not crying, just waiting. For what, I still don't know. Maybe for someone to chase me out and say, "We saw, we're sorry." But no one did. Back in the present, I reached for my bag. The envelope was still there. Clean white paper, carefully sealed, addressed in handwriting I'd practiced 3 times. Inside, a check. $65,000. No strings, no speech. Just a note that read, "Because you showed up, when no one else did." I had brought it tonight thinking, maybe, just maybe, this would be the night I finally said thank you out loud, to the people I thought had raised me. But after that toast, after that deliberate erasure, I realized this envelope didn't belong to them anymore. Not after the album. Not after the card. Not after a lifetime of being a background prop in a play they never let me audition for. I looked across the room, at the people laughing, toasting, pretending this family made space for everyone. It didn't. And I was done pretending I didn't know that. I didn't stop the dinner, but something inside me had already walked away. While the rest of the table picked up where the toast left off, refilling glasses, pretending nothing happened, I just stared at the melting candle in front of me. My plate hadn't been touched. I couldn't remember what I'd even ordered. Across from me, someone laughed at another one of Lowell's stories. My mother leaned in, whispering something into his ear that made his smug grin stretch wider. I wondered how often they rehearsed that dynamic. It felt like watching a stage play I'd never been cast in. And just like that, I was back in that emergency room. A year ago, 2:07 a.m. I'd never been in that much pain before. I thought it was food poisoning, maybe worse. The nurse said I was dehydrated and my blood pressure had dropped. I could barely sit upright, my body shaking so hard they had to hold my arm still to insert the IV. The first call went to voicemail, so did the second. By the third, I didn't expect an answer. My hands were too weak to type, but I managed a text. In ER, not okay. No dots appeared, no reply, nothing. By the time the fluids kicked in and the nausea settled, it was nearly 4 a.m. My phone finally lit up around 9. "Mom. Sorry, I was wiped out after Lowell's work dinner. Everything all right?" I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed, "Hospitalized." 5 minutes later, her reply came. "Mom. Must be that sensitive stomach. You should really stop eating so much takeout." "No. Are you okay now?" No call, no offer to help, just another excuse wrapped in judgment. I stared at the sterile ceiling that morning, letting the IV beep fill the silence. It wasn't anger I felt, it was something colder, more settled. They don't come when I need them. They didn't come when I was 6 and scared at that school play. Didn't come when I failed my driver's test and cried in the parking lot. And they definitely didn't come when I was lying in that hospital bed, wondering if I was going to be okay alone. Back at the table, Lowell knocked his glass against Dad's with a satisfied smirk. Someone asked Mom about her new garden pots, and she launched into a story about lavender roots, like the air hadn't just shifted 15 minutes ago. I wasn't invisible because I failed to shine. I was invisible because they refused to look. That night in the ER, I stopped calling. Tonight, I stopped hoping. The laughter at the table started to sound like white noise. I kept my expression neutral, eyes moving slowly between each face as if I were trying to memorize a room I was about to leave forever. Lowell cracked another joke about childhood bath time. I think something about rubber ducks and Dad accidentally tossing me in the kiddie pool. It landed with a round of laughs. Classic. Rewrite history, frame me as the punchline. My mother leaned over to one of the cousins. "He's always been the sharp one, hasn't he?" she said loud enough for me to hear. I stirred my iced water and smiled into the glass. I didn't need their approval. I just wanted to stop being erased like I never mattered in the first place. The memory came uninvited. It was last summer. I'd driven to their house in my first fully paid-off car, a used sedan I bought with freelance checks and more overtime than I care to admit. I pulled up the driveway, expecting something. Maybe not applause, but at least acknowledgement. "Did Lowell bring you?" Mom asked when I walked in, not even glancing at the keys in my hand. "No," I said. "That's my car." She blinked, then tilted her head. "Oh, good that it runs." That was it. No curiosity, no follow-up, not even a compliment on how clean it looked, how proud I must be. Just a quick pivot to Dad's back pain and how Lowell's new Lexus had seat massagers. I should have known then, but what really drove the point home came just last week. A random message from my cousin Lisa popped up. "Sorry you couldn't make brunch. You'd have been proud of Lowell." I didn't know what brunch she was talking about. I scrolled her feed and found a picture. Everyone gathered around a long wooden table. My mom, Dad, even the great-aunt from Florida who hates flying. And there he was, Lowell, standing and raising a glass, just like he had tonight. The caption read, "To the future of the family, congrats, Lowell." I texted Lisa, "What was the brunch for?" She replied, "Didn't they tell you? They named him executor of the trust. Big deal." Big deal. Big enough to fly in out-of-state relatives, big enough for champagne and framed menus. Not big enough to include me. Not even an FYI. Not even a call afterward. They hadn't forgotten. They just didn't think I needed to know. My gaze drifted back to the dinner table. I listened closer this time. The conversations, the inside jokes, the way they all orbited around Lowell like a solar system. I wasn't even a moon, just a speck in the distance. It wasn't just that they didn't need me. They'd already decided I didn't exist. I leaned slightly to sip my water when I felt someone shift beside me. Vivian, my second cousin on my dad's side, leaned in like she was sharing a secret. "Hey, is it true you told your mom you were done with the family?" she asked in a whisper that wasn't quiet enough. I blinked. "What?" "You know, that you didn't want to be part of all this anymore," she said, gesturing vaguely to the table, the room, maybe the entire bloodline. "That's what your mom said, and Lowell mentioned something like that too, a while ago." I swallowed hard. So this was the story now. They weren't just excluding me. They were rewriting me. Over the past few months, I'd started noticing how some relatives had pulled back. Text replies got shorter. Invitations stopped arriving. Even people who used to send holiday cards every year had suddenly gone quiet. I chalked it up to distance, life, normal drift. But then one of my oldest cousins, Petra, accidentally let it slip on a phone call. "I mean, your mom said you've always been kinda overly emotional," she offered, trying to sound neutral. "What does that mean?" I asked, trying not to sound defensive. "She said it's hard to talk to you sometimes, that you take things too personally. And then, Lowell told us you cut contact a long time ago, like, completely." I hadn't. I'd just stopped chasing them, and apparently silence makes great fertilizer for lies. Dinner wrapped. The servers began clearing plates and refilling coffee cups. I excused myself from the table and waited just outside the restaurant, letting the night air cool my skin. The sidewalk glowed under the streetlights. My mother stepped out a few minutes later, clutching her shawl dramatically like she expected applause. I didn't wait. "Why are you telling people I don't want to be part of the family?" She blinked, one of those rehearsed delays. "We're not telling them anything you haven't already shown." I stared at her. "You mean like the years I kept showing up, calling, sending gifts, and getting nothing back?" She shrugged. "You've always been sensitive." That word again. Like compassion was a flaw. Like being human was the problem. "And you've always been great at making that sound like a weakness," I said. She looked away, jaw tight. I took one step closer. Calm, firm. "Let me be clear. One more lie, just one, and I will respond, not quietly, not nicely, and not privately." Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I turned and walked back toward the lot. My voice didn't tremble. My hands didn't shake. They didn't know it yet. But I had stopped asking for peace and started preparing for war. The next morning, I was standing at the kitchen counter, pouring my second cup of coffee, when my phone rang. Noreen's name flashed across the screen. I hadn't even said hello before her voice cracked through. Brianna, we got something, an email, from someone anonymous. It had screenshots. I froze. My pulse jumped. Screenshots of what? Messages. From you. Old ones, years back. Her voice trembled, soft and stunned. Bree, they sound bad. Like you were angry. About us. I closed my eyes. I knew exactly what they were. Back when I still held out hope. When I was desperate to untangle the mess between my family and the two people who actually showed up for me. I'd texted things like, "Sometimes I wish you two weren't in the middle of all this." Or, "I just need space," from all of them, especially Mom. They weren't cruel, just tired, honest, private, messages sent on nights I was unraveling inside. Did you read all of them? I asked gently. We did, but we also knew they were old and personal. We just didn't want you to think we believed it meant something more. I knew where they came from. There was only one person who ever had access to my old phone backups. Lowell, back when I was dumb enough to sync devices with him for safety. This wasn't clumsy revenge. This was planned, tactical. They weren't trying to ruin my image. They were trying to sever me from the only people left in my corner. I took a long breath and sat down at my desk. No crying, no pacing, no cursing the ceiling, just stillness, then action. I opened a blank email, addressed it to Delilah and Lowell. Subject line, "You started this," the body read. "If you want to drag this into the dark, I'll bring it into the light. You've mistaken silence for surrender. That's over. If another lie, whisper, or manipulation lands in their inbox or mine, I will make sure the truth finds every person you've tried to fool. No, love Brianna. No signature." Then I opened another draft. This one to Noreen and Elroy. "They're trying to shake your faith in me, but I've never questioned my faith in you." Attached to the email was the letter. The one I had originally written for my parents. $65,000. With gratitude. With peace. Now it was a different kind of truth. I clicked send. The email had one subject line. "Your silence was never my weakness." The next blow came fast, less than 24 hours after I hit send. I was standing in line at the pharmacy, trying to refill my prescription for migraines. The clerk scanned my card, frowned, and typed again. Then again. "Sorry," she finally said, not meeting my eyes. "Your insurance was denied. Looks like the policy's inactive." "Inactive?" I asked, pulse rising. "Since when?" She handed me a printed note. I read the words 3 times, just to be sure I hadn't misunderstood. Coverage terminated April 6th, 2 years ago. The policy had been under my father's name, Wendell, and no one told me. No call, no letter, not even a cheap automated email. 2 years I'd been walking around uninsured, thinking I had a safety net, because they let me believe I did. I didn't even have time to breathe before my phone buzzed. It was Doreen. Her voice was shaky the moment she spoke. "Bree, they sent a letter. A legal one. A lawyer. They're saying we have to return the money. That it wasn't a valid gift." I tightened my grip on the phone. "What kind of lawyer?" "Family estate representation," she read. "They're claiming mental manipulation, that you weren't in a clear emotional state to give that amount." I almost laughed, but not from humor. "They're accusing me of being unfit. The same people who cut my name from insurance without a word?" Doreen sniffled. "They're scaring us, Bree. We don't know what to do." "You don't have to do anything," I said. "Just send me a photo of the letter. I'll handle the rest." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of water, sat at my desk, and stared at the letter on my screen. A legal threat, dressed in civility, signed by someone who didn't know me, but who clearly had been fed a version of me. I called the law office, got the assistant. "I need you to write this down," I said. "I have every receipt, every timestamp. I have audio, emails, and one voicemail from the woman you're trying to protect that would gut your entire argument." A pause. Then I added, "If they want to fight, I hope they packed a damn lunch." I hung up. Then I opened a folder and started building the truth. Every message, every favor ignored, every gift dismissed, every line of silence they had hoped I'd never break. I printed it all. And for once, my hands didn't shake. They pushed me out of the family. Now I'm taking the whole damn door with me. By nightfall, the silence in my apartment wasn't empty. It was loaded. I opened the voice file one more time. My mother's voice, smooth and clipped like always, said, "She's not really ours. Never felt like it. Some kids, you love because you have to." It had landed in my inbox by accident 2 months ago. Meant for Wendell, sent to me. I'd replayed it too many times, thinking maybe I'd misheard. Maybe she meant something else. But there was no mishearing that tone. No warmth, no stumble, just the sound of a decision already made. I wasn't going to beg for space in a house where the blueprint never had a room for me. I opened a folder on my desktop labeled Archive. Inside it were everything they'd tried to forget I had. Screenshots, voicemails, photos, receipts, timelines. I uploaded it all to a private drive. Then I wrote the email. Subject: I'm not asking anymore. Recipients: everyone who'd ever looked away. Cousins, in-laws, family friends. The lawyer, Wendell, Delilah, Lowell. The body of the email was short. Consider this my statement. I'm not waiting to be heard. I'm making sure I'm not erased. Attached was the folder, the audio file, the receipts. I clicked send. Then I posted the same on a private link and shared it on my social channels. Not for sympathy, not for drama, just so no one could say, "We didn't know." By morning, my phone was vibrating non-stop. One cousin messaged, "Brianna, I'm sorry, I didn't realize." An uncle's Facebook read, "Sometimes the loudest voices were quiet too long." Delilah's page vanished. Lowell? Nothing. Not even a thumbs down. And me? I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, finalized my business license for a new LLC, Advocacy for Financial Independence. My first clients? Women estranged from families, left off trusts, cut from insurance, the ones no one believed deserved protection. They erased me from the family photo, so I developed my own damn picture. 3 months passed like slow thawing ice. Spring touched Portland with early blooms and chilly mornings. I had a quiet rental on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a place where I could hear myself think. My parents never reached out. No apology, no questions, just silence. Lowell, of course, couldn't help himself. One text. That was low, even for you. I didn't open it, just deleted it before the preview even faded from my lock screen. He didn't get the last word this time. He never really deserved the first. Friends vanished, some quietly, some with weak explanations. "We're staying neutral," one wrote. I almost laughed. But no one asked Doreen and Elroy to return the $65,000. Not a word from the lawyer. Maybe they realized I wasn't bluffing. Maybe they knew I'd saved everything. I didn't care why. I had clients now. Young women, single moms, first-gen business owners. Every one of them tired of being dismissed in legal fine print and family dinner tables alike. We sat across from each other over coffee or Zoom screens. I showed them how to track every penny, file the right forms, untangle messes they never asked for. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped needing to be understood and started being useful. Doreen made pancakes every Sunday now. She still asked if I wanted blueberries in the batter, even though I always said yes. Elroy called me kiddo while fixing my front gate. He grumbled about the rust, but brought his own tools. Then one afternoon, I opened my mailbox and found a card. Inside was a photo. Me, Doreen, and Elroy at brunch, laughing, natural, whole. The note said, "You don't have to be born into a family to be loved by one. You were always ours, even when they didn't see it." I stood in my kitchen for a long time, holding that card. Then I walked to the fridge and pinned the photo up with a magnet shaped like a miniature Oregon pine tree. Some nights are still quiet, but now they don't feel like punishment. Just room to breathe. I don't chase a seat at someone else's table anymore. I built my own, and I know exactly who belongs there. They didn't raise me, but they watched me rise, and this time I chose who clapped. Sometimes the family you're born into doesn't see you. Sometimes they rewrite your name out of photos, wills, memories, like you were just passing through. And that hurts, deeply. But what I've learned is this. You don't need their permission to exist fully. You don't need their approval to grow roots, build something of your own, or redefine what family means. The truth doesn't need a crowd to be real. It just needs you to stand by it. I used to think silence meant safety. Now I know Silence is a choice, and so is rising. And if you're watching this, wondering if you're the problem, or if you're too much for people who keep shrinking the room around you, maybe it's time you build your own door too. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt erased by someone who was supposed to protect you? Or have you ever had to choose your peace over being accepted? Drop a comment with a 1 if this story touched something real in you. Or tell me, where are you watching this from? What's your story? And hey, if this video resonated, if it sparked anything in your heart, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story.